Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Welcome back. You're watching GB News. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the newsroom. A 7-year-old girl is in life-threatening condition in hospital after a suspected drive-by shooting in North London. A total of 6 people have been injured in the attack, which happened outside a funeral in Camden. 4 women aged 21, 41, 48 and 54 are being treated in hospital. The 48-year-old has suffered potentially life-changing injuries. A second child aged 12 was taken to hospital but has since been released. Police are appealing for any witnesses and say no arrests have yet been made. The Royal College of Nursing says it will announce a new round of strikes in February if negotiations don't progress by the end of this month. Nurses from more than 70 NHS trusts in England are already planning to walk out on the 18th and 19th of January in a dispute over pay and patient safety. The union says double the number of nurses will be asked to take part in the action next month if it goes ahead. This comes as the government are trying to pass new legislation requiring minimum service levels on strike days. The UK has sanctioned Iran's Prosecutor General following the execution of a British-Iranian national accused of spying. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described the killing of Ali Reza Akbari as callous and cowardly. Iran's state media is reporting the British ambassador has been summoned to Iran's foreign ministry, which is accusing Britain of meddling in their national security. But Foreign Secretary James Cleverly says the government will temporarily withdraw its ambassador from Iran and they're considering further action.
When I found out earlier this morning from the officials in Tehran that this had taken place, of course I was filled with a revulsion that I think any reasonable person would have. That is why we have taken this decisive action. That is why we've made it clear that our response will not necessarily be limited to the measures that we have announced today. We take this incredibly seriously.
Russia has launched a major missile attack on Ukraine today, striking vital energy facilities across the country and destroying an apartment building. Dnipro's regional governor says at least 5 people have been killed and 27 people, including 6 children, were injured when the missiles hit the flats. Moldova says missile debris was found in the north of their country. Well, Rishi Sunak has pledged to supply British battle tanks to Ukraine to help the country retake territory lost to Russia. And 5 more pages of classified material have been found in US President Joe Biden's family home in the state of Delaware. Earlier this week, his legal team admitted documents relating to his time as vice president during the Obama administration had been found at his house and private office in Washington. The US Attorney General has appointed a special counsel to investigate the matter. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle and joining me tonight are the comedians Dan O'Reilly, a.k.a. Dapper Laughs, and Diane Spencer, a.k.a. Angela Rayner's stunt double. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages first. We're going to start with the Sunday Telegraph, which leads with Starmer, I will slash nonsense bureaucracy in the NHS. I thought Labour loved the NHS, OK. The Observer now, cabinet split over NHS pay, piles pressure on Sunak. Sunday Mirror goes with Tory donor tycoons £4.5 million to destroy PPE. And the front cover of the Sunday Times now, they lead with Windsor peace talk plan Ahead of coronation, they're trying to reconcile those issues between William and Harry. Sunday Express now, sex assault during riot at Migrant Centre. And The Sun has an absolutely horrible story. Girl 7 shot in drive-by at funeral. And the Daily Star now has Dancing on Ice star Joey is mates with an annoying ghost. And they've run with the only wraith is Essex. Oh, my goodness. And those were your front pages. And we're going to kick off looking at Sunday's papers with the front page of The Telegraph. Dan, what have they got?
So they're talking about Keir Starmer here. He's saying he will slash the nonsense bureaucracy within the NHS. Reform or die. Warning as Labour leader criticising the mind-boggling waste of time and energy and money. He says he wants to slash all the useless jobs, all the money that's being thrown around. I like this personally myself. I'm looking at this. It's a new look for Labour on this, and I think it's refreshing to finally see someone talking about what's going on and coming up with some form of solution. So.
Well, yeah, although it doesn't sound very Labour. I mean, he said here the idea that the service is still the envy of the world is plainly wrong. That sounds like something a Tory would say, wouldn't it?
Well, I think all the diversity, when you look at all the money that they're spending on those diversity people and the managers and all of that, there's surely money to be saved, no?
Well, oh, definitely. But I do question reform or die. Is that to the patients? It's a little aggressive.
It sounds like a threat.
It really does. I mean...
And they're the ones with the drugs.
They are. Well, no, those are the pharmacists now on my phone.
Oh, OK. Fine.
Oh, yes, yes. And a bloke I know whose number I can give you. So what I like about this is that he's saying... He's actually coming up with ideas, which, as Dan just said, it's a great new look. Because until now, he's previously just gone, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, we'd do it different, but not said how.
Yeah, well, this is the point. I mean, Dan, I think you're right. You know, we all love the NHS insofar as it's, you know, free at the point of contact. You go in there, if you're ill, you get healed, unlike America, where if you're poor and ill, you die, basically.
But it's a business, isn't it? And that's the first thing you do when you look at a business. If it's losing money, you get rid of the people that ain't really needed.
So you think mostly admin?
Yes.
Admin issues, probably.
Well,
what do you think?
I like what he's doing here because he's actually talking about reducing the bottleneck. He makes a very good point that if you've already got something wrong with you, why can't you self-refer to that part of your body that relates to it? Like, my GP is actually already doing that. I rang up to go see the GP and they said, wait a minute, you've got a problem in your knee and your hip, and they sent me straight to the physio.
If you can get an appointment with a GP, I mean, this is the problem. It's really, really hard in England at the moment to get appointments. You're on the phone for absolutely ages, unless you phone at like 8 a.m. on the dot.
That's mental, isn't it?
That's how you phone. That's
and you join this queue.
That's great management, telling everyone to call at the same time on a Monday morning when you're trying to get your kids to school. I love that.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
So those are the sort of things that we could do something about, couldn't we?
Yeah, and he's got some suggestions, which I think is interesting.
Interesting. OK, well, we're going to move on now to the front page of the Times. The Sunday Times, Diane, what have they
Well, when I first read that there was a peace talk plan, instantly I thought of Russia and Ukraine.
Well, you would.
Yes, I mean, peace talks. It sounds like something very serious has happened, like, I don't know, a war. But no, we're talking about Prince Harry.
When are we not talking about Prince Harry? I mean, this seems to be the issue. You a fan, Dan?
Well, I think it's great. I think it's great fun. When I look at this, I can just imagine Prince Harry having to sit down with the King and explain how he lost his virginity behind a pub and got spanked by an old woman. I love that.
Well, he doesn't have to tell him because it's in the book.
Well, yeah, I know he's going to have to explain himself and the drugs and everything. I think they should film it live and let us watch it.
What, you think that Charles is going to sit there, a copy of Harry's book, that somebody has gone through it, like highlighted bits, they've put tabs in and gone, so, Harry, let's start page 1.
I mean, I hope he hasn't read it. But the thing is, it is about the coronation, isn't it? Like, trying to get this resolved, ultimately, between these two.
But it's very difficult to come to a resolution when the person you're trying to resolve things with is still stabbing you, saying, you've hurt me so much.
OK, so this is my real issue with this. Like, so Harry is constantly going on about how, you know, he's really annoyed at the tabloids and he's really annoyed at the media because they constantly quote things that are private and personal. And then in his book, he quotes text messages from his family Right, so is there not some kind of hypocrisy here?
I don't know. I mean, that's on his terms, isn't it? It's his private information he's giving out on his terms. It's different if the journalists are talking about your private stuff. If you want to give it out, you can give it out.
Do you think William and Kate feel that way about their text
that's a
messages?
different matter.
I would disagree there because it's a text message from somebody
Exactly.
else. You
Okay,
can't, unless you're sending a text to yourself, which I think Harry is possibly inclined to do because he seems to enjoy hugging himself and talking to himself.
He does a bit. What do you make of his revelation of his 25 confirmed kills? It does sound like someone boasting down at the pub.
Did you read the whole excerpt?
No, I'm not going to spend my time reading. I'm going to read the gobbets that appear in the media, and that's the only time I'm giving this man.
If you read the whole, because somebody put up like the full 2 pages so that you could read it within context.
Yes.
And even within context, I found it crass.
Of course.
Yes.
But this is, I mean, loads of military people have said we just don't do that.
No.
We just don't boast about numbers or talk about, that kind of thing. And, of course, it's created a security nightmare for the family. But it's weird, isn't it? He's still playing the victim pretty much constantly.
Yeah, and what's amazing is he not only plays the victim, but he's got this massive messiah complex. One of the things he says is, I'm willing to forgive you for everything you've done. Wow, thanks, Harry. It was so great.
That's me. OK, well, we're going to move. Hopefully we won't have to talk about him ever again. We're going to move through now to the Sunday Express. Dan, what have they gone with?
Yeah, it's not a very nice story at all. Sex assault during riot at migrant centre. I mean, this is more horrible news and everything about the migrant situation. Threats of kidnap and murder in terrifying riot at migrant centre. A migrant working centre worker claimed to be the victim of a sexual assault during a riot, and someone else had their finger broken, and it's just bad press and just makes you angry, doesn't it?
Well, of course it does. I mean, what can you say about this, Diane?
Well, I mean, what is interesting is that because of the different groups of people that are in these centres, they're actually developing gangs. It's very much like a prison system. So obviously you're going to have a prison mentality. And you have the different gangs who are all claiming turf over the different areas of the asylum centre. And what's interesting is the documents kind of reveal what happened step by step.
Yes.
In terms that there was a power cut, and then it was about an hour and 40 minutes after the power cut that the fires started, and then they set fire to the centre, and then sometime after that, the violence started.
And of course, you're dealing with huge numbers at the moment. And everyone has sort of agreed, irrespective of where you stand on the political spectrum, that the numbers are just escalating. They're through the roof. And this is really good news for people traffickers and criminals. So someone has to get a handle on it.
Yeah.
And if the Tories can't, is Labour going to?
I don't know. All I know is that when articles like this come out and then they're proposing to put take these big buildings over in your local towns, after you read this, you're going to be like, you don't want to.
Well, that's the other thing, is it does kind of act as a bit of a gift to the reactionary right as well, doesn't it? When you see criminal behaviour among migrants, which isn't reflective of all migrants, but it's front-page news, and all of a sudden, it makes it harder to handle, doesn't it?
And there were also, and they made the effort to state that there were people who are also migrants in the centre appealing for calm, trying to get people to calm down.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when you have a situation like this, it's the person who decides to set fire to things, which is going to end up kind of overwhelming everybody else.
Right, exactly. OK, well, we're going to move on now to The Sun on Sunday. Diane, this is very sad news, isn't it?
It's deeply sad and it's deeply worrying. So a girl of 7 is fighting for her life because she was shot in a drive-by shooting at a church funeral. Now, this is deeply concerning for so many reasons, because obviously we have very tight gun laws. So obviously whoever has these guns, you have to suggest that they are unlicensed. And the funeral, there are about 350 mourners.
Yeah.
And as they're leaving the funeral, a car drives by and there's this loud banging sound. And of course, in the UK, we're not used to gunfire. We don't know what that is. And
this was in Euston. So this was in the middle of central London, broad daylight.
Yes.
This is just unfathomable. It's the sort of thing that we just don't experience here.
No, not at all.
And we don't know anything about it. We don't know who it is. We don't know why they did it. They haven't been apprehended.
No, we only know who the funeral was for, but that seems to be for a woman and her daughter, and the woman suffered, I think it was a heart attack, and her daughter had leukemia. Right. So you think, well, where on earth is this all coming from? So I really hope that we have enough. I mean, this is the one time when CCTV seems to work.
Yeah.
We hope that they can find that car as quickly as possible and find those people.
I mean, anything to add, Dan? There's not much to say, is there?
Not really, no. I've got a daughter a little bit younger than that, so it just breaks my heart. Horrible to read. My thoughts go out to the family.
Yeah.
OK, well, that's the end of part 1. But do join us after the break. We're going to be talking about Rishi Sunak threatening Sturgeon, teachers threatening strikes, and Stonewall threatening the gender pay gap. See you in a few minutes.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle, and my fantastic comedy panel of Dapper Laughs, Dan O'Reilly and Diane Spencer. Thank you both for looking so glam tonight. Diane, well, you do. You know, you always do, though, don't you? And Dan, you've gone for the turtleneck. I like that you're doing the turtleneck.
I'm bringing the turtleneck back because you just never know when you're going to need to apologise, do you? So
it's like the symbol of repentance.
It is.
I was thinking more Steve Jobs or Elizabeth Holmes, from the Theranos scandal.
Well, let's face it, it's chic, whichever way you cut it.
This is a special one because if I'm feeling a bit of a rascal, I can undo it. So, but let's save that for the end of the show, maybe.
Right, we're going to begin this section with the Sunday Telegraph and the UK reconsidering its support for the Iran nuclear deal. Diane, this is not good.
No, not at all. So, due to the execution of British Iranian citizen Ali Reza Akbari, who was accused of spying, and he denied it right up until the very end, obviously there's been an international outcry.
Yes. Well, obviously.
Yes. And Britain has been a key player in the talks in restoring the Obama-era nuclear deal.
The one that Trump scuppered.
Yeah,
basically.
Trump scuppered it. So essentially the idea is that we try to encourage Iran not to develop nuclear weapons.
Yes.
And we lift the sanctions. And you might think, well, doesn't that sound a bit unfair? Because the UK has nuclear weapons, the US has nuclear weapons. Yes, true, but we're also not arming Russia with drones.
Yeah, and we're also not executing citizens.
Yeah,
You know, this is a corrupt authoritarian regime. And
yes, our own citizens aren't rioting in the streets, cutting their hair.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, those protesters have our support, to be honest, because that regime has got to come to an end. Anyway, we're going to move on to this one. This is the classroom agenda. What's this, Diane?
OK, so this is The Times, and the headline is, Teachers vote to strike in February after pay talks stall. So, yes, we've got, narrow it down, we've got the train striking, the bin men, the nurses, the doctors. It's almost like after 12 years of a Tory government, everything's falling apart.
OK, Dan, the thing is, right, these kids, what about the kids within all this, right? Because they've had 2 years of disruption. They've been stuck at home. They haven't had proper lessons or anything.
Yeah, it's
not really fair on them, is it?
It's not fair on them, no. It's out of order. And when these talks are happening, I mean, the main thing people are saying, look, teachers care a lot more about the children and the education and the welfare than the politicians do.
Right.
So
Because they know them.
Because they know them. So, you know, I'm sure what they're asking for isn't unreasonable, and the politicians, and they need to make more of an effort to try and work it out. And I'm just getting frustrated that all of these great people are striking when I wish it was like, you know, parking wardens or...
Right, exactly.
Or Prince Harry.
Why don't, like, tree surgeons strike?
Yeah.
No one needs them.
Oh, my friend's a tree surgeon, actually.
Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you know, something else then.
I loved it when the people who do all the work on the motorways were striking. I was like, yeah, driving home, no detours.
This is quite... Right, but the thing is, right, the union is saying, the teaching union, by the way, is saying that
Well, one of the teaching unions.
Well, it's the National Education Union, which I do have to say is kind of an activist body at this point anyway, but let's leave that aside. They're saying that the pay has fallen about 23% relative to inflation since 2010. That is a lot.
Yeah.
And it is a cost of living crisis. And I was a teacher and I know how hard it is. And I would say that if we were paying them properly, we wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, the main thing is the same with the nurses, that they're worried that they're not going to get more teachers coming and joining, obviously.
Right.
So...
Yeah, well, this is it. And what do you think, Diane, about, you know, as Dan said, this is an essential worker, same with nurses, same with doctors. Do you not think that, you know, the government wanted to do this minimal service requirement?
Yes.
Do you not think that there's some merit to that?
No, I really don't, because unfortunately what's going to happen with a minimal service requirement in a school, that basically means you're going to be shown videos of The Lion King and My Fair Lady on repeat.
Well, I used to do that when, you know, that's a valid education.
You are a terrible teacher.
Sometimes you get busy.
There is no excuse for showing The Lion King on repeat, Andrew.
A friend of mine used to show Shrek, or Shrek 2. Something like that. But, you know, there's some educational value to that. And also, you know, as a kid, that's the best part of the lesson, isn't it, when they wheel in that TV?
Well, what's interesting is that the National Association of... The one that has the Union of Women Teachers...
Yes.
...decided not to strike. And I wonder whether that's to do with basic childcare, because the Union of Women Teachers just went, I need to have my child in school even though I've got bad pay.
There's that issue. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of parents really do rely on the fact that their kids go to school.
I mean, they learned that in the pandemic. Homeschooling is horrible.
Awful. But also, people forget, when a kid misses, like, even a week,
yeah,
they
really
are massively behind. And as a teacher, it's quite frustrating trying to get them back.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the union is... Well, with all these strikes, I mean, they don't sort of endear themselves to the public. People are getting sick of it, aren't they?
No, but they do need to pay teachers for what they're doing. And what I find interesting is Rishi Sunak wants kids to learn maths till they're 18. But one of the things that this union wants is to have more money for maths teachers, because we have a shortage of maths teachers. OK, well, we're going to move on to the Sun now. China is finally admitting their COVID strategy is failing. These are disturbing figures, Dan.
Yeah, China admits 60,000 people have died from COVID in just 1 month. In horror, 1,000% increase as the virus goes mental. There's queues outside funeral homes. You know, it sounds dreadful, and we're still letting them in unchecked.
So is that happening now? Because I thought the idea was that there would be checks at the airport, but that's not happening, apparently.
I thought there were checks, but...
Well, that might be misinformation. Don't quote me on that, but it's a good thing I bought a turtleneck, eh?
Thing is, Dan, you know, China had this zero policy thing, and everyone was locked down to authoritarian degrees.
Yeah.
And then, of course, inevitably, when they do you know, let people go, this is going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to happen. We should mention, by the way, and it is kind of important, that the average age of death is 80.3.
Yeah, and that is important.
It's really key.
Because China already has the world's oldest population. I mean, maybe with these figures, maybe they don't anymore.
Well,
but the point is that they're rapidly losing their top spot. And we've got the most old people. But also, what's worth noting is that, they live in very, the Chinese New Year.
Yes.
Is 22nd of January. They're going to do a lot of moving about before then. And so whoever's got it...
Yeah.
We're going to have an increase around Chinese New Year, 22nd of January. Everybody's going to move around.
But look, the point is, I mean, surely the lockdown idea here just hasn't worked. I mean, it's just postponed the inevitable. And as we say, the people who are being affected are the older generation. It's not... Younger people aren't at risk, right? So surely we've learnt by now that these lockdowns aren't effective. Surely. I mean...
They're definitely not effective, and we should not have any more of them. I like my job. Don't shut my industry again.
OK. Right, we're going to move on now to this next story. This is Sunday's Mail. Single-use plastics, thing of the past, right?
Yeah, no.
No?
Because they're going to take more of your plastic away. So the Daily Mail says single-use plastic plates, trays and cutlery will be banned from October and wet wipes could be next.
Wet wipes?
Wet wipes, as in every single mother who is changing their baby, forget it, you're going to have to wash that tea towel. So essentially they're going through all the plastic stuff and they're trying to stop all the plastic things, and now they're choosing more things that they're going to take away from us. So now you'll have to leave your house not only with a reusable coffee cup, you'll have to take your own cutlery, you might as well take your own plate.
But what about the environment, Diane? What about all the plastics in the ocean? What about all those dolphins that are getting choking on straws?
All right, tell you what, you want to take away plastics? Let's look at children's toys.
OK.
You think about how many toys are made of plastic, but do you know what? They're not going to take the toys. They're going to attack utensils that are used by adults, because everybody on the planet knows you take away all the toys, every single parent is going to have a riot on their
I have to say, Dan, I do get annoyed by the paper straws in pubs because they fall apart and they get stuck in your teeth.
I think, you know, I'm very much into, you know, all of this stuff, and every time I see, like, a turtle or something with one of the beer, you know, the beer holders around his neck and a straw up his nose, I think he's had a good night. No, I mean, no, but I think it's terrible, the scenes. But I mean, when you have a look at all the other stuff, plastic bottles, they're not getting rid of plastic bottles. Shopping bags. My missus got about 1,000 plastic shopping bags.
Yeah, but they stopped that when they started charging. For the plastic shopping bags, they did reduce. I mean,
so you just pay for ruining the environment. I love that. But but what about all the plastic test strips and the masks that we had?
Yes, that's true as well.
You know
and they've been going into the ocean as well.
Massively,
But it's not so much the UK and the EU. Most of the pollution, the plastic pollution in the ocean, is from Asian river systems. It's not. It's about economic underdevelopment over there. It's not about our problem. Are we really making that much of a difference? I don't know.
Well, according to Greenpeace, no. According to Greenpeace, this will not even sort of make a dent in what's going on. So that's fun.
Well, it's weird that they're just specifying... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Yeah, they're just specifying on those items. Why not get rid of all, like, one-use items?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly. OK, well, we're going to move on now to the Metro. And Rishi Sunak is willing to play his trump card to stop Nicola Sturgeon's gender reforms. It's a very interesting story.
Yeah, so Rishi Sunak could unleash constitutional crisis if he blocks the Scottish gender reforms. He's been warned all hell's going to break loose after 25 years of devolution history. I mean, yeah, I don't really understand too much of what's going on here. I haven't looked into what the gender reforms are and stuff like that, but it does seem a bit crazy that he's going to get involved and stir it all up. Or...
I can tell you, I can help you there, Dan, because what the SNP and the Scottish Government have done is they've effectively said you no longer need a medical diagnosis to declare yourself the opposite sex legally, which means that you don't have, you can just live as the opposite sex for 3 months, whatever that means, and then you can declare yourself to be the other sex. And this has ramifications for women's rights, because it means anyone can identify into the female category and enter women's spaces.
Oh, OK.
So actually, it's not a good thing, I would argue. Diane, what do you think?
Well, it also lowers the age. So originally you would be 18 and then it lowers it to 16.
Yeah.
And also it changes, like you said, from the 2 years you have to live as the gender that you believe you are into 3 months. Now, obviously that is a bit of an issue because I remember as a teenager I went through a lot of different phases and you are still growing. And do you know what? I just care about the person who is already living in what they feel to be the wrong body, but what if they only spend 3 months and then after 3 months they go, yeah, I'm going to have surgery, I'm going to take pills and things. Yeah. Whereas if they had like a bit more of a buffer period, like a 2-year buffer period with a medical diagnosis, maybe some of them wouldn't go all the way. Maybe some of them would go, oh, no, I was just having a very bad time.
See, Dan, this is one of those topics...
Yeah, I'm very scared. I'm a little bit scared, but I think... I'm a bit scared, but I think, you know, that whole situation aside, it feels to me like, you know, if they've made that decision and they've done that, the bigger issue here is him getting involved and taking away their rights.
OK, but he kind of has to, right? Because, right, this is my argument on this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But the view... If Scotland is interpreting the Equality Act differently and saying that sex doesn't mean sex, it means gender identity, which is effectively what they're doing. And if they're implementing this, it means that people, say in England, could go to Scotland, get a gender recognition certificate and then go to England and that would apply. Yeah. So he has to kind of step in at some point.
Unless he changes English law to say if you get it over there, it doesn't count over here.
Which is something that has been mooted and has not gone down particularly well. But that is something that...
But at least he wouldn't be then trying to ride roughshod over Scottish decisions.
Yes, but the Equality Act covers all of the UK, and that's the problem here, really. If there is a constitutional crisis blooming, probably the SNP's fault. Because to be honest, they haven't had rigorous checks. They haven't had a debate about this. You know, Nicola Sturgeon has basically been saying any feminist who says, I'm concerned about this, there's no merit to that argument. That's what she said, because she's very high-handed. Anyway, that's me on my high horse there. We're going to move on to the Sunday Telegraph now. Stonewall back in the news again. What for, Diane?
Eroding the gender pay gap.
Okay.
So, and this is within
That's a good thing, isn't it? We don't like the gender pay gap, right?
Well, technically we don't, but they're eroding the numbers that report on it. So what Stonewall have done is they've said, right, OK, when you ask people, when you do your census, you don't just do your sex, you do it gender-based questions. So you say, do you identify as a man, woman, non-binary, other, prefer not to say? So because of that, it means that people aren't going on their sex, which means that suddenly the women, the reporting on what actually is a woman, because there's no such thing as a woman now.
So in other words, a lot of men who've earned a lot more money traditionally now identifying as women, that changes the stats. Is that what you're saying?
It could change the stats. I mean, I don't know how many people...
Dan, I know you're eager to
talk
about this.
Do you know what? I feel confused about my own gender after these last two. I don't know. I haven't got a clue what's going on. In fact, someone tweeted last week after the show that my lack of a proper education is showing on this show. And I've really...
That's harsh.
Yeah, it was. And I feel it right now. No, I ain't joking. But I think, in simple terms to me, how are you meant to see if there's a gender pay gap if you can't work out what someone's gender is?
Well, that's it.
That's the issue.
Boom.
So there are...
There we go, you nailed it. Thanks. I mean, but the thing is, Diane, right, so with the gender pay gap issue, though, however, you know, in this country, it is illegal to pay women less money for the same work as men. It's been illegal for 50 years.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of the debates around the gender pay gap I find a bit confusing anyway. And then when you add into that you don't know if the stats are actually talking about men or women or non-binary, you know, this whole thing's a big mess.
Well, you could say it's a big mess, but, I mean, the gender pay gap in the UK is almost 15%, according to the Office of National Statistics, OK? So there's still 15% mainly difference. But the thing you have to look at is, well, does that mean that women are doing lower paid jobs? Is it because a lot of them are in childcare? There's a lot of different things happening there.
Well, women tend to take part-time jobs more than men do as well, which is factored in,
So, but something to do with this Stonewall thing is that they actually give people, like, a tick to say we're one of the top employers of Stonewall, and that's what people are trying to achieve by filling in this thing.
It's a total racket.
But my question is, how valuable is a Stonewall tick at the moment? Because they've lost Ofsted, they've lost the BBC, they've lost quite a few things because of their behaviour in this
Stonewall basically say, give us lots of money, and if you give us money and follow our rules, we'll put you up high up on our rankings.
But do you want to follow their rules?
No.
Yeah.
It's a racket.
So there we
anyway, that's all for part 2. Join us after the break for why misogynistic influencers are taking over social media, why people are choosing to be celibate, and why young people are turning to Satanism. See you in a moment.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. Let's get straight to it. We're going with Sunday's Mail now. The authorities have found more classified documents at Joe Biden's home. Dan, that's a bit embarrassing.
I love Joe Biden, mate. He's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? It's mad. Like, you wouldn't let him drive a car. I don't even know if he does, and he's running the country. I love this. So the third batch of classified documents found at Biden's Delaware home. A third batch were found in his garage, I think. It brings the total to 6 documents.
I mean, it's odd, isn't it? Because, like, of course, all eyes were on Trump because Trump had those classified documents in Mar-a-Lago.
I think the thing with that was that he said that a president can declassify them. So technically they weren't... And he
like a wizard, just magically...
Yeah, he can declassify them because he's a geezer. But the vice president, as Biden was when this happened, he can't because he was vice.
So I don't understand this. I was looking into this and I was reading an article about it by an expert in the area and said... This guy said that this is actually really common. That actually it's quite easy to take your work home with you and not realise you've got classified documents.
Surely his house is a safe place, isn't it? Well, I don't know if... some people got to follow him around, seeing what he's leaving in coffee shops and stuff as well.
That's my point, because Biden, when he was asked, he said he didn't know what these documents contained. I'd be surprised if he did. He doesn't know who he is.
To be fair, you have to read a lot of documents. I could totally understand that they put them in the suitcase and they just go, I'm just going to read it at home when I'm sat on the sofa, I've got my feet up, I need to properly read this.
Are you saying this because you've taken all those GB News mugs home?
I
saw you do that.
I've now got a set.
I mean, it's pretty embarrassing just because the Democrats have been going so much on Trump with this. But you know, they've done it themselves. I mean, although Trump did sort of obfuscate for like 18 months, and try and put them off. Because what you're meant to do, apparently, is if you get caught with these documents, if it is a mistake, you're meant to say, oh, I'm so sorry, seal them straight away, send them in, say, here. But Trump didn't do that. And I think that was the issue, wasn't it?
Trump stopped all the progress. He stopped people from trying to get into his home. He also had a huge amount of documents. Now, don't get me wrong, like Joe Biden should also be investigated as quickly as possible. Everybody should be investigated and find out who is innocent, who is guilty, what have they done. But Joe Biden has taken fewer documents, and the second it was discovered, he was very cooperative. So there is a difference here.
The thing is, Dan, also, I mean, Joe Biden, I don't want to be mean, but he forgets a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like... It's like
who's dead?
It's like...
You forgot that woman was dead!
It's like your granddad, when your granddad gets old and he starts wandering around without his trousers and box shorts on and wanders out, and you can't let old people that have got a bit mental,
have
let them off.
Have you seen my nuclear codes? I left my nuclear codes somewhere.
He did mix up his wife and his sister, is that right? Or something?
Well, we've all done that. We've all done that.
And he also did, as Diane says, he called out the name of someone who died a month before. That was embarrassing. Is she here? No, she's dead.
She's dead, sweetie.
I mean, it's just look, and I say, like, if he was just a normal guy, I would be thinking that, you know, I wouldn't even mention it. But the fact that he has got the nuclear codes does make me a little bit concerned. Anyway, we're going to move on now to The Independent. Celibacy is all the rage these days, Diane. Is that right?
I don't think so.
No?
That's what I'm going to say. So The Independent has got this headline, No sex, please, we're millennials. Celibacy has become all the rage among young people. No. Now, I'm sorry, but I've read this and I know young people. And this, to me, sounds like just another fad diet, but just for your vagina. This kind of plays into the idea of incel culture, like this idea of, no, I'm celibate, which is actually a word which is associated with a religious practice. Like, why do you need to go around saying, I'm not having sex with anyone?
Well, there used to be a thing, that silver ring thing, where young people used to say that they were abstinent.
Just don't do it. Why do you have to talk about it? Why do you have to announce it all the time?
Well, firstly, I should say, right, this article talks about millennials, right? Millennials are now pretty old. They've got mortgages. Yeah, I think we're talking about Gen Z, really.
I'm a millennial, I think.
Right,
yeah, I'm a millennial, and I'm celibate, but not out of choice. It's because I'm married. But I mean,
it's a form of celibacy.
Yeah, but no, I think if this is
you guys have bad marriages.
I'm only joking, by the way. I didn't want to announce it on TV that me. But anyway, I think that this. I read it and I thought, what? They're cancelling sex now? Is this what they're trying to do? You can't cancel sex, but I think if this is going on, it's definitely a very female thing. It's not, men definitely aren't going celibate.
Well, no, wait a minute, because that's what
the
an incel is.
Yeah.
An incel is an involuntary celibate. So they're the ones who say, oh, no, I don't have sex because there are chads and the women
No,
are
they
all
say
horrid.
they want sex, but that women won't allow them to have sex.
That's because they're being creepy and weird.
Okay, well, there might be many reasons why that would be the case, but this isn't just about sex. I mean, there have been loads of studies which have talked about how alcohol consumption, drug consumption, all of these stuff, that basically the younger generations, they're quite pure. They're almost monastic. They're like monks.
Yeah, but do you know what I think a lot of this is to do with? I think it's to do with behaviour when people are dating, because I know people who are millennials who are dating, and there is a lot of ghosting. There's a lot of sex very quickly and then a lot of ghosting. And that's what is repeatedly brought up in these examples throughout this article about people are having sex and then suddenly they're never hearing from the person again, so they've just given up entirely.
Ghosting's very rude, isn't it?
It's so rude. Just tell someone you're not interested. It's quite easy.
Well, you might not be interested after the sex if it isn't very good. So why don't you just
give feedback and give them a mark out of 10?
We should have TripAdvisors for.
That's a great idea.
How about not rate it online, sweetie? How about tell it to the person who you had
give
it
them a
with?
rating personally.
Just not online.
Yeah. I just think ghosting is so rude. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next one. This is the male misogynistic influencers are being accused of taking over social media, Dan.
We've been waiting for this.
I love how you gave me this, as I used to be a misogynistic influencer myself.
That's expertise.
Yeah. No, but listen, this is a serious story. Misogynistic men making money for social media giants, TikTok, YouTube, continue to host Andrew Tate-inspired influencers, amassing millions of fans and charging £400 for tips on dominating women. So this is like influencers that are giving advice out. And look, I guess I can talk from an educated perspective on this, because I had a TV show that essentially was the same thing, teaching men how to pull women, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't teaching them how to dominate.
No, not at all. And this is my point on this. So from my perspective, when I had on that, it was done with confidence. Taking the man, giving him a makeover, making him look better, giving him confidence, and then the jokes and stuff, and being able to open conversation and stuff like that, right? But this, if these influencers on here are doing toxic, horrible, the sort of stuff you don't want.
So it's the difference between that funny kind of, how to be a bit more attracted to the other sex, right? And the kind of, the Tom Cruise character for Magnolia, the one who sort of teaches men how to trick women to get into bed. I mean, isn't that the difference here, Diane?
The massive difference here is that, number one, it's pervasive. So it's all the children have got it because of social media. And what I was saying to Dan before this programme is that with these people, like people who call themselves Toxic Rob, which to me sounds like a cream for an STD. That's what he calls himself. Why would you brand yourself as
toxic? That's weird, isn't it, as well? So it's almost like revelling in the idea that what you're doing is...
Yeah, like the same way you have a dirty burger, and that just means the burger's very greasy and will give you a heart attack. This will poison your mind. But what I need to tell you is that if all of these young boys are getting into the idea that women are not a person, that women are not as good as men, then when all these kids grow up, there's going to be women who aren't seen for jobs. I was saying this to him. They're not going to hire people. They're not going to hire women. They're not going to ask to interview women. And do you know what? A lot of women are going to be pushed back in the workforce, and this is a very, very dangerous thing.
So where is this coming from? Because this strikes me as very, very old-fashioned views of men and women.
What they're saying that it's coming from is like this, somehow... boys have lost the sense of masculinity, and they're looking for masculine role models. And unfortunately, these people are pumping out this, like, you could be a man, but the way that they're saying that you should be a man is very cold. When you look at all the things they say, there is absolutely no warmth. There's nothing about being loved.
This is a really interesting point, though, isn't it? Is that, I spoke to Christina Hoff Sommers, an American academic, about this, about the way that boys are often demonised now if they behave like boys. And in other words, they're being socialised, rough and tumble play, that kind of thing. And they're sort of frowned upon. And therefore, you create a vacuum for this kind of toxicity within the discourse to come in and gain some sort of foothold. Is there not something in that?
Definitely. I mean, I remember that story where they made a load of boys stand up in a school and apologise to the girls.
For being boys,
right. Appalling, because, like, You don't know what those kids have done. You're just making a load of kids feel bad for the way they were born. Are you insane? So that kind of behaviour has...
But then there's a free speech issue, Dan, as well, isn't there? Because, you know, we might say, like, it's really terrible for a guy to go online and make a lot of money by saying that you've got to dominate women or whatever it is, or calling themselves toxic, whatever.
Yeah.
But it is free speech.
Yeah, it is free speech. I just think, look, my views on my views on this particular thing has changed dramatically as I've matured over the years. I was saying that as well before. You know, I've got 2 daughters myself now, and what I thought was funny and etc. back then is different now. And I simply think that if you're giving advice to lads that's anything beyond how they can better themselves, like being confident and looking better, how they can better themselves, not how to manipulate people. Anything beyond that is wrong.
Yeah, because in 10 years' time, if these boys are thinking this way, your girls aren't going to get jobs because they're going to be interviewed by these boys who go, yeah, but women aren't as good as men, and then they're not going to get jobs.
OK, we're going to move on now to the Metro. And Sainsburys not reading the room. What's this about, Diane?
Oh, my good grief. So Sainsburys did a poster.
Yeah.
Sainsburys make clothes. And their poster said, for walks in the park or strolls after dark, which I read as something sort of romantic, because my husband and I, we go for little strolls at night time. We're like to...
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
In love foxes. We run up and down cars. Well, no, it's just that a woman made a joke. She made a joke, and the joke said, ha, 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 they think we stroll in the dark, which is obviously a reference to the fact that women have been murdered for walking home alone at night.
But Sainsburys aren't alluding to anything related to that.
Well, this woman literally made a joke about it because she saw that, she made the connection and tweeted a joke. And as you were saying about when you do something which could go viral online and you don't necessarily kind of realise the impact, and now this is blown up, and now the Metro is saying that Sainsbury's poster receives criticism for not considering women's safety. But to be fair, this is one tweet that's got blown out of proportion. And even the woman who tweeted it herself has written underneath it, this was a joke!
OK, Dan, is that the case? Just like it's a news outlet just finding a tweet and turning it into a
I don't know, this is weird, and I didn't think I'd come from it for this angle on this one, but I've got to disagree a little bit on this, because whoever wrote this was clearly written by a man, because I don't think a woman would be silly enough to write it, and it is, I think it is, and this is going to sound bad.
Go on, Dan.
I'm going to sound bad, but I do think it's in bad taste, really, because, you know, it just sounds stupid,
because there are security risks
yeah,
for women.
well, not just that. Like, women don't go for strolls at night after dark on their own, and there's a picture of a woman on her own. It's just, you know, it's just stupid marketing.
I do.
You do go for walks.
I'm sorry, but I'm a woman and I go for walks after dark, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is in bad taste.
yeah,
I'm just careful. I mean, like, you can be as careful as you like. If you still get attacked, you still get attacked.
I don't think that there was any intention to allude to
that.
Strolls after dark.
No,
you think of romantic kind of.
I don't think they were alluding to it. I just think the geezer works. Whoever done it works in marketing, and it's just.
Or maybe it's just bad at his job then. OK, right. We're going on to the Sunday Telegraph now. Young people turning to Satanism. Dan, are you dabbling in Satanism?
Oh, this is just mental, man. I don't know. All these stories are just crazy. The young sacrifice their belief in God on an altar of Satanism. Leaders in the religion claim opportunities for people to engage in activism on issues such as like gender and sexuality is appealing. What they're basically saying is because God doesn't like gays, that our people are going, like people that are gay or that, you know, activists and stuff like that, are deciding to worship Satan instead.
And do they think that Satan is particularly pro-gay rights? I wouldn't have thought he was.
I don't think he's pro anything, but you know what? He's better than God.
Well, I mean,
to them.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is they're trying to provide an alternative. Like you were saying, like, there is a vacuum. Sometimes because the Church of England, obviously religion is going down because people just don't want to turn up to church. And these people are offering an alternative where they say that in terms of Satanism, we ask you to look at yourself as a divine being.
Are they joking?
No, I don't think they are.
Yeah, well, look, this is my favourite bit about it, because like this religion's obviously got a PR department, and they're like, look, virgin sacrifices, chalices of blood, and belief in the actual devil, you know, and killing people, and that's all part of the past.
Well, they don't do that.
We don't do that
What's
anymore.
the point in being a Satanist if you're not going to drink virgin's blood? Well, like, if I was signing up to be a Satanist, that's what I'd want.
Yeah.
Right? Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, that kind of stuff, right?
I mean, those are great films, but
are they actually suggesting that worshipping Satan is no longer part of Satanism? I mean, that's a rebrand.
I don't know what's going on here. My head's fried.
Yeah, but also, as I've said before, the word Satan actually meant messenger of God, so it actually could mean an angel. Satan,
but Satan was a fallen angel.
And who knows what Satan really identifies as?
Right, exactly. Well, clearly, I mean, if it is true that all these sort of gender nebulous individuals are attracted to Satanism, but it doesn't make any sense.
Nah.
So much so that I'm going to move on. I've had enough. That is it for part 3. I'm putting a stop to this. But coming up after the break, we've got petty neighbours, banter with an AI queen, and near-death experiences. What more could you require? See you in a minute.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. And we're going to the Times now. And if you ever fancied an evening chat with an AI Queen Elizabeth II, this has you covered, apparently.
OK, so yes, AI lets you banter with the Queen, Churchill and Shakespeare himself.
Well, I quite fancy that, but I doubt that the AI machine will be able to help me do that.
Well, at the moment, what it is that you have to type to them. And
Yes.
what they've done is they have taken all these quotations and all these words that are said by these famous people, and they have put them into this AI, which then predicts what the famous person would have said.
Right.
But of course, what you're going to end up with, I mean, you could end up with a predictive text model, which
Yes.
I don't know about you. If you've ever, have you ever played that game where you just push the next word on your predictive text and send it to your friend? You end up with a load of tripe. It's brilliant.
Yes.
So you could end up with that, but also you've got the anthropomorphism, where people are going to start pushing human emotions onto this AI system.
Yes.
Where they say, no, I'm really talking to Shakespeare. I think he's trapped in the
Is that a risk, Dan? Are we going to start thinking we're talking to these people?
This just reminds me of the film Terminator. It's you know, you start by talking to Shakespeare. The next thing you're dead.
Shakespeare turns up with an Uzi.
Yeah, with an Uzi, and get in the chopper.
I worry about this AI stuff, like the computers. Like being able to think and mimic speech.
I mean, it makes me feel old. When I was a kid, we just spoke to each other. But I mean,
Well,
it is.
Yeah, thanks, Grandad.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's insane. But this stuff is. There's more to this stuff. This stuff can be used in business. This stuff can be used to tutor kids. And there's loads and loads. Basically, it's going to take over the world.
Yeah, it is going to take over the world. You heard it here first. We're going to move on now to the Sunday Express. Parents want to use phones to track their children. Dan, now you've got kids.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good idea?
Yes, look, parents...
Wow.
Parents, well, look, so parents split over whether to track children on their phones. Is it wrong to track your teens? Parents are divided over the subject. Mums are divided over whether it's wrong to track your children using their phones.
There's technology that you can implement on the phone.
Yeah, it's like a tracker.
But it's for teenage kids, and you know where they've gone. That's not... But you're encroaching on their privacy, aren't you?
Well, put it this way, right? When I look back at when I was 18...
Yeah.
Woo, if my mum knew what I was up to and where I was and what I was doing, I probably wouldn't have turned out this bad. But, I mean, I've got two young daughters. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having the tracker on your phone up until a certain age, and you can check where they are. If they're not home in time, what if they get abducted? That could help find them.
Don't you think, though, like, part of becoming an adult and becoming independent is that your parents have to learn to trust you and to let you go off and do the things you're going to do?
Never trust teenagers. Never.
I mean... No, but when my mother told me when she was growing up in Derry, like, her parents would let her go out at 2 years old and wander around the streets and then come back in the evening. You know, she'd be there with...
Really?
Yeah, she was with her sisters and brothers. But even so, you know, don't you, like, that, things... We just trust kids more back then.
Well...
And people turned out more... Right? No?
No. I don't know whether people necessarily turned out more OK because they were trusted. But what I found really interesting about this article in The Express is that the amount of kids who like to track their mum. I think that's quite
Yeah, well, that's the
funny.
other thing. Can't kids start tracking their parents?
Yeah, and the kids have been tracking their parents to see what they're up to. How long until an extramarital affair is uncovered by the child?
Well, exactly. I just think that, you know, trust your kids a bit more, no? No?
I think it can help, but...
OK, well, there we go. This is why I will never have children. Anyway, on to the Sunday Telegraph. And ever wondered what happens after death? Some people have found out, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, according to The Telegraph, 1 in 5 people, so you've got a 20% chance, guys, revived after cardiac arrest report a near-death experience.
Wow.
Yes.
So now there's evidence of near-death experiences?
Well, what they've said is that because there's the 20% and they are very, very different. It is a unique inner conscious
but it's like floating out the body kind of thing?
Yes. They appear out of their body. Some of them say they're attached to their body by a cord.
Really?
Yeah, they could see the cord, and they're very different. And this is the first time that they've actually studied these and the recalled experiences and the brainwave changes.
See, it's very easy to be cynical about this, but, you know, Dan, I think there could be something in this. If there's a study now saying that there's a lot of people experiencing the same kind of thing, isn't there?
Well, I don't know. You know, yeah, I mean...
Do you believe in the afterlife?
Yeah, I've had many out-of-body experiences on different substances.
Well, there we go.
So, you know, it could be anything. But, yeah, I don't know, really.
I think there's something to it.
There definitely is. People often wake up profoundly changed, no longer fearing death and determined to live a better life. It's almost like there's some kind of inbuilt system where if you have a near-death experience, you become very calm and you go, right, I'm not going to do that again.
Or it could be, as Dan said, just the drugs.
But the interesting thing is, and I will be serious on it for a second, the interesting thing is that all of these experiences, a lot of them are really similar, so that says something, doesn't it?
It does.
I think it's very... although there are a lot of drugs in hospitals, so maybe it is exactly what you outlined earlier. Anyway, that is the end of the show. Thank you so much to my brilliant guests, Dan O'Reilly and Diane Spencer. And do remember that Headliners will be back at 11 o'clock tomorrow. It's going to be Leo Kearse and Kerry Marks. And by the way, this show is going to be repeated at 1 o'clock and at 5 a.m. And you might be watching it then. And if you are, then coming up next is The Breakfast Show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Farewell.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News